talk about the history of St. Augustine, it wasn't just the Spanish that were here. They had a lot of help. They had help from people that we now know as freedom seekers. They came down as enslaved people from Georgia and the Carolinas, and they escaped from there, hearing about this colony of St. Augustine, and if they promised to help defend the city of St. Augustine, then they would be given a piece of land where they could start a new life for their families here. They just had to follow the Catholic religion and help the Spanish. They didn't know exactly what they would be coming to here, but they knew that it was better than what they had been through as enslaved people. So they started making their way through the marsh here to St. Augustine to help defend the city. Let's find out a little bit more about those people now. The freedom seekers.
You're almost there on this trail to freedom, and I hope to meet with each one of you. I will see you soon, thank you, and I will tell my superiors that I've seen such a great group on the trail to freedom. I will see you soon.
You know, it wasn't just the Yamasi and the priests that were helping the escaped enslaved people to make it here to St. Augustine. There was really an underground railroad, a network of people who were helping them to get here to help defend this colony of St. Augustine. There were local fishermen and boatmen who would help them get over the marsh and get through that water. And then once you got here to St. Augustine especially, you had to watch out for the oysters. Make sure that you've got some shoes on to protect your feet. These can give you a really bad infection, and you've already traveled this far. You can't afford to lose any more of your people when you get here, so they had to be sure to get help from this network, the Underground Railroad.
I choose to take you to Fort Mose. We have the St. Johns River to cross, and then we will come down through the marshes and tall grasses, so you will be able to rest your weary bones and tired feet. But I am the captain of the boat, and I need you to listen to me, because we still have many dangers to face. I travel these waters from La Florida up to Drayton Hall Plantation in South Carolina. That overseer at Drayton Hall is mean. He is nasty. So if you escape from Drayton Hall, I understand. I also learn information from each overseer I stop at on the way, at the different plantations, the Kingsley Plantation and others. So I heard there was some runaways with bounties on them. A very good bounty on you, sir. Yes. Not so good on the little one. So I am a trader, I am a fisherman, and sometimes a fisher of men. So you will determine whether I'm a trader or a fisher of men today. What did you steal from the plantation that you can trade with me? Because I also heard Drayton Hall was missing some silver. So did you put a silver spoon in your pocket? How about some rice? Did you steal some rice? Some rice seeds? To trade for rice? How about an indigo plant? Did you bring an indigo plant down to Fort Mose? We can't rely just on the flowers to color our clothes. It fades too quickly. How about a trade? Did you learn a trade when you were on the plantation, or did you bring one from Africa? No trades? Because when I come back to Fort Mose, I expect to be paid. I will give you this if you follow my rules. First is we need to be very quiet. There are English spies Scouts, I gave a ferry ride across the St. John's to a trapper. At least that's what he said he was. He said he was a trapper, but he paid me so handsomely, I'm thinking he's trying to get information. So, trader, fisherman, fisherman. So, what do we do? If you are quiet, we can get across the water. Sound travels very far across the water, so we must be very quiet. In the St. John's River, there are alligators. Do not scream alligator, just point. I will keep them away with the oyster. With the oar. The next danger is the oyster. We will be wading knee deep in the water, mucky water, to get to my boat. If you step on an oyster, it could cut you all the way to the bone. And then you will get infected and get blood in my boat. I don't want blood in my boat. I don't want you to get infected because you could lose a foot, a leg, or die. I don't want dead people in my boat. There's one other danger. When we get to Fort Mose, how will they know if you are amigo or enemigo? We know one way, the password. The password is the saint of the day. Because the heathen British Protestants do not know the saint of the day. The saint of the day is Santa Teresa. So when we get to Fort Mose, we will look for the militia and they will yell, "Hey Santos," what saint? And you must yell, "Santa Teresa."
Santa Teresa.
Okay, loud enough to get over the drums, over the gunshots, yelling, "Santa Teresa." Shall we make our way to the boat?
Yes.
I will look to make sure that
I think there's a boatman out there now, taking a group over to the fort. Let's follow them. Let's imagine the excitement of Captain Menendez seeing other freedom seekers just like himself. He made it here a little while before and has already achieved the rank of captain. He's been through that same struggle that these enslaved people have. You've come through the marsh. You've made it all the way to St. Augustine now. Let's find out a little bit more about Captain Menendez.
See, there's no way of me telling friend or foe out here unless you know the password. Santa Teresa, that's who Fort Mose is named after. She was a saint. You are standing at Fort Mose, 2 miles north of the town of St. Augustine. And that is no accident, because most of our attacks come from the English to the north. They've come many times. And sometimes when they leave, they've burnt the town to the ground. Since they've had the black militia, though, there have been many defeats here at this spot. We've managed to defeat the strongest army in the world at this spot. Outmanned, outnumbered, and outgunned. We protected the freedom of the people in town, night after night, day after day. I welcome you to Fort Mose. But remember this, you are not the first people to make their way to freedom on this road, and you probably won't be the last. I can tell by looking at you that you're brave, that you're strong. How else could you have made it this far? 377 miles through this kind of woods? You had to be strong. And I know that you were smart. Otherwise, you'd have never figured it out. But you know what? There's a lot of people that were smart and brave and strong. There are unmarked graves along that trail. They didn't make it. They might have the same thing in common with you, that you never gave up. Seems to me that's one way that you can guarantee you'll get there, is to never give up. But there was another ingredient to this, and that's faith. Faith that maybe everybody that you meet in the woods isn't dangerous. Did you meet anybody that was friendly in the woods? Yes. Well, I don't know about you, but Yamasee Indians and the work for them, I went to pay for them because I didn't know how many rivers there were across. And I didn't know where the fords were. The Indians did. It took faith because I remember the night I was in the cabin and I heard somebody say, there's a place where you can be free. I said, what? I said, there's a place where you can be free. Where is it? He said, go south. A place called Spanish Florida. There's a town called Fort Mose and a port called Fort Mose. You say, well, how am I going to get there? I ain't got no road, no map. He said, just go south. Don't stop till you get there. You'll know when you get there. Now, what I didn't know at the time was the Spanish would keep their promise. If you make it this far and want to join the militia, be a part of the town, you can be a full citizen and they will guarantee your freedom. But what is freedom without choice? Because your choice is whether to stay or to live out in the woods by yourself. Did you guys see the bounty? Well, that's how he makes his living. And you're good if you got past him. I tell you, you'll remember this for your life. So live it well and welcome to Fort Mose. Viva el Rey! Viva!
You know, these freedom seekers, they traveled through marsh just like this. But they weren't traveling in the daylight. They were traveling in the dark of night, carrying all of those seeds and different things like that. And you know, it's important to note that it's not just the soldiers, okay? We're talking about the women and children who made it here, who set up businesses, who brought those seeds and grew that food, made clothing, made different things to barter and trade with each other. This is the reason that St. Augustine has survived as the oldest continually occupied city in the United States. It wasn't just the military actions that took place here in the defense of the Spanish colony of St. Augustine, but it was the women and children who came from Georgia and the Carolinas as freedom seekers. They are the ones that we owe our thanks to.
I hate guns, but I had to like guns because that was the way to freedom. Because they said if you can get to St. Augustine, you can be free, but you gotta be right with the Spanish. And you gotta use guns. So I like guns, I don't like to hit them. Okay? Now, I originally from Senegal, right on the ocean. Oh, it was beautiful over there. And my dad liked to fish in the boat, and he'd bring the fish home to my mama, and she would cut the fish up and put it in a big pot. And in the pot, honey, she'd put some corn that had been mashed. Now, not like that. She'd mash it and stir it around with a lot of herbs. And child, it was so good. It was fish and put some okra with it. Oh, that was good eating. We call it cuckoo sometimes. So I enjoyed that. We had a good time. It was a wonderful time being young, and we'd sit around all day, and we'd also, I had my stuff here, that we would make our own clothes, and I brought some of that cloth for you over there. But anyway, here's some of the cloth that we would make, and then it would be in a fabric, and I'd take it to town. Once a week to sell. Now, when you walked in town, it was beautiful. You see in the marketplace where the people who worked there were lined up with all kinds of fabric, blue, green, colorful stuff. So I would try to sell it. But the owner would say, you know, you want to give me 50, no, I ain't gonna give you no 50. So we would end up paying 35. I take that.
I really want to thank you for spending these last few minutes learning about these freedom seekers and how they made their way to St. Augustine and eventually what built this city of St. Augustine. These were not the only freedom seekers that came here though. Next we'll learn more about the Menorcans. They were freedom seekers who came from New Smyrna to start a new life for their families here in St. Augustine. And then when the British left and the Spanish took back over and the Spanish left again, the Menorcans remained here. They are the founding members of the city of St. Augustine and still around today.